Finally, Mr. Kan says, finally. The main character approached the young master Saisi. Remember this face and the air of Logus province, with which we have allied with Kan Logish, was my only friend at the time, and me and my fool asking the young master Ricardo. What is the situation, soldier? Ricardo says, as you see, we have responded to a report of a disturbance. In his melodies we found, Kan there, with his accompanying knight, got to know us and asked if the rumors about the young master are correct. The refor. Commander Scofan explained the details of the rumors to him. Caught the leader of the leader. Scovan, he said to him, do you dare lie to Logus's heir? And this is what happened. Kan says if you are going to tell him, it is better to tell him the truth. You have claimed that you have never been trained. And I dealt with what? The cavalry accompanying the disgraced. For this reason, gave him a small awakening call that would not have happened if you did not lie in the first place. Young Master Giselin says to himself, yes, it was this type of men. He always treated me as a lord every time he visited Bordium. He was always chaos. Even after causing all this problems, no one was able to say anything. Because I was a subordinate to him in the first place, no one underestimated Bacon. On the opposite, who was always suffering from the lack of a deficiency. His bold confidence and behavior were praised as recipes worthy of the higher end. For this reason, I was subjected to more criticism that Mr. Kane looks at the king of mercenaries. The young Giselin says to himself, look at this man in the habit. He would attack me with this amount of provocation. Events have been transferred to Logos clips for some time. It appears in front of us. Kan says, what do you want me to kill Giselin? The spy man says, if you succeed in this task, then the distinguished person will support the Lugus Familician. Says it is not difficult to deal with someone like him, but Giselin Lee is also an heir to his kingdom. How can I get rid of him? The spy man says you can lure Giselin into his parish, which makes it appear as if an unfortunate accident occurred. It will appear simply as if it was a trivial dispute between the heirs. I will accompany you in a Ferris uniform, accompanying the situation, so there is no need to worry. This is an uncommon opportunity even for you. Kan says, to believe that I will be forced to kill my cousin. Giselin is go immediate. Events are transferred to the accident site. Kan says why you are still standing, since you know that I am here. It is better to attend that thing that has been prepared for me. I heard that the festival has stopped. So let us rise to the mood and spend a great time. We were always simultaneous when it comes to things like this. Am I wrong? My friend, the young master, Giselin, thinks. Then he says to himself, do you talk about that? It is true that this man was always asking me to prepare alcohol and women every time he comes here. I agreed to his request at the time because I did not want to be beaten, but not yet, because I had to waste the precious money of my custodians. The young master, he says, if you remember, it is better to bring them now. The young master says yes, of course, it is better to bring them now. But isn't you a debt to pay me to say can? I will pay what the young master says. You realize that I was dealing with everything I asked for me Bamwali. Not. Also reply to me. What I paid was accompanied by 1,000 gold pieces. The capital. In addition to the benefit, says Kan. What is 1,000 golden pieces? All this should not cost you up to 100 golden pieces. You were doing it to thank me for being your friend. It is like friendship Effie's. The young master says, I have taken you for a long time, so I paid what you need before I put you down. I need a lot of money now as you can. Kan gets angry and rises from his place. He says, he started to act with all as a result of him only because I was tolerated with you. It seems that you think you are really stronger only because you have published a rumor that says that you won a knight. You are nothing. And this is the reason that everyone in the north invites you to be buzzing, while all that you do is the supposed heir is just an empty nonsense. Kan is attacking the young master and tells him to collect yourself. The master of the young man avoids the cane attack, trying to hit him again, but he avoids all its ingenuity. The young master responds to him and strikes him in his stomach by striking him with strongness. The young master directs the strike towards his face. but Ken repels the beating with his bare hand, then falls on the ground from the pain. Young master says, "Stop the moan. I know that you prevented that beating spy man who makes his facilities." He screams at the young man and says, "Ghislaine's retreat. What do you think you are doing?" Those present in the pub, looking at the situation while they are surprised by what happened. The young master looks at the audience and smiles, and says, "If this is the way you want to play." Ken looks at his accompanying guard, says, "What you think of an acting?" Says the guard, "And the spy was excellent. I perfectly prepared the theater to pretend that the mistake was from Ghislaine in front of everyone's eyes. This must be more than enough to justify the fencing." Ken says to himself, "Of course, it is a rare opportunity to get such strong support. I must make sure to leave a permanent impression this time. This is the time for the ideal, to get rid of the fall of the fallen power. How do you dare to distort the dignity of the nobles by lies? Ghislaine dares you to boycott him," and throws the palm on a face and tells him, "I dare you to the Can Logis duel. The heir insulted me in front of the people of Burdium, and I assaulted a Persian and distorted the dignity of Nabi." He looks at him while he is annoyed. He says, "Do not think about denying that, not." Chin smiles, saying, "I knew you were stupid, but I did not know that you are stupid, including enough to dig your grave yourself. No, I accept your duet. Do not regret it, even if it is dead." Young master yammer, "Ricardo, to bring all the merchants who protest around the castle. Tell them that I will earn a lot of money for theft." Festival was suddenly cancelled, and the atmosphere that leads to its climax is suddenly cool, leaving behind some tourists. Those who were unable to return due to remorse should be in the state of incomplete rage, because they are unable to spend their money or their time in such a situation. If an event is held to calm them down, on the day of dueling in the field, the ducting suspended is spent. It is a confusion between the young master, Kayan, and Ghislaine. Bet on your money on the young master, Kayan. Finally this dreaded naughty will get what he deserves. The markets in the city are recovering with people and selling their goods, and some of them go to bet on Mr. Kayan. Can looks at the young master and says, "How dare to convert a sacred duct into such a market? Let me explain this before we start. My sword, it will not stop even if I surrender." The young man looks and says, "Sahi, this must be what you seek. Now, since we seem to have enough people gathered, let's start." The spy and facilities say, "No, I do not think that a suitable bet can continue at this rate." The Mosque of Bets looks at the paper and says, "Well, no one is betting on his money on the Duke of Ghislaine, so therefore, to be fair, the result is very clear. This naughty has no chance against the young master Can. Anyone who brought a stunned person with the stupidity enough to bet on the other side." Can says, "Even the market ignores the accompanying spy." Kane, to change the contents of the bet, he says, "Let's change the matter to the time he can withstand the young master Can." But the commander Scovin changes the equation. Despite the injury of God, that he came to see the fencing and decide to bet on the Duke of Ghislaine. Likewise, we are betting on her older brother. The audience did not believe that. Mrs. Elena Bub betted on Ghislaine. Elena says to the bet mosque, "This should be enough, is it? Not like that." He says, "Yes, this should be enough." Mr. Kayan says, "I am waiting for no reason." The young master says, "Then prepare, as you know. I am older than you. After all, it will look a little strange if you do the first step as well." The young master is preparing and telling him to attack. Telling him, "Ken, don't you think that time has missed behaving like an older person?" Ken begins the attack on Ghislaine, but he repels the Kane attack with his sword, says, "Ken, I have already descended to a very low level, so that you cannot save your face now." Ghislaine avoids the attack. Kane, the earth, with his foot with a strong scoring, shattered the earth. The audience looks at the impact of the trick on the ground, and they say, as expected from Mr. Can, will not bear until one blow from him. Blinda says, "What do we do?" The young lady, "We have to stop them now." As for the accompanying spy, it is too late. Regardless of who is the opponent, the moment they decide to direct their swords against Ken, that they are trapped in the act, the opponent is affected by that tremendous force. He will be concerned with thinking that there is no chance of counterattack. All his energy will be used only in dribbling at the end of the exhausted discount. After dribbling for a period of time, it will open it, and its end will always be won by Ken this way. Ken says you slipped, as you always seemed, that your skills have already evolved from what they were before wearing it as well. Ken attacks and says I have always been good to escape away from the old days. The young master Giselin is trying to repel the attack, and the darkest was stronger than that to repel it, to fly in the sky. The friends of the young master looks at fear for him as for the spy. He smiles and says it is over. Giselin, but the surprise was here when Mr. Ba-el Shuklub, and he descended on the ground as if there was nothing. The young master said, I wanted to tolerate you, but you exceeded the limit. He headed towards Kan with a speeding sword. However, Kan is affected by the attack. The escort, says the escort. He returned to his stable condition by intensifying the mana in his legs. The young master says to Kai the art of arrogant perseverance like this. You must think you are the strongest, only because the opponent will feel fear. If you show a little of your strength, let me open your eyes. Ken attacks him and says yes. How will you do that? The young master repels the attack and carried out a repeated attack on the cane of multiple areas. Kane attacks a sword on the young master, but he presses the sword with his foot on the ground. The young master is his foot from the sword, but Kan's body was full of wobody. The audience looks at them while they are surprised by what happened in the fencing, screaming what it was now. The Duke of Giseline has improved a lot. Will he win the bus? The cursing has bet on the young master. As for the friends of the young master, they were very happy. Ken says to himself, the wounds are superficial. Although he could have made it deeper, how can this naughty show this level of the art of fencing? The young master throws his sword to the ground and says, a gap like this in the skills that will not provide enough entertainment. I will only fight my hand from now on. Mr. Ken is upset and says, what is the young master? He tells him, I think I should take this opportunity to educate you today with my bare grip.